Um, yeah.
Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Alive, my search for the best ways to live. My name is Giga Jr. And today, sorry, I'm getting a little itchy. I don't know what's going on. Today, our guest is the man responsible for bringing bands like Urban Dub and Dice and K9 into the national consciousness. He's also the artist and repertoire man of Warner Music Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up. A football stadium size applause for Alexander Lim. Hi, Alex.
Hey, man. Again, thank you for having me on your show, man. I think, like, I really wanted to even talk to you way before, but when you were planning this podcast,
We have
I
been
don't know if
talking
you
about
remember.
a podcast years ago, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I actually, it's just the right time to do more of it because like everyone's at the house right now, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for
Our,
having me, man.
our topic for today, Alex, is how do you keep Cebu music playing in the new normal? You know what, Alex? Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? If my memory serves me correctly, I woke up to the vinyl records, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there were no industrial or there were no commercial level vinyl records machines, so we couldn't copy them. So we had to buy those vinyl records. Then the
Mm-hmm.
cassette tapes came, right? There were the cassette tapes, and these cassette tapes you could press record in the cassette player, and record a song from the radio or even a song from another cassette tape from an original. Maybe if you have two cassette tapes, cassette decks in one player. Then digital music came, and then we started burning them in CDs, right? Remember those? We would
Yeah,
burn
yeah.
songs in CDs as clear as the original copy because it was in digital form. Now, because of the digital version of a song, it's easier to share. Then
Mhm.
that son of a bitch of a website, Napster, came, right? And it just totally blew the music
Everyone.
industry out of the water. They didn't know what the hell to do with Napster. In fact, record sales started going down, and eventually, I think they won over when they were trying to battle Napster legally. And I think eventually Napster went down, right? But
Yeah.
still, the Pandora's box was open because of Napster now. Record sales, music sales from artists, from popular global artists or even just local artists, started to dwindle because it was
Yeah.
easier to acquire music. Some parts of the world would probably just download it for free or they can share it to their friends.
Mm-hmm.
Now the game has totally changed. And of course, now people can now watch their favorite artists more because there was no other way to make more money. There was no
Yeah.
other way to touch the lives of people. You couldn't sell them CDs or tapes or cassettes anymore. You had to
Exactly.
go to their country and perform live, which was a good thing for all the fans out there. Now you can watch artists like Taylor Swift or Lainey or Urban Dub live because of the fact that they have to perform live because sales from their albums weren't as great as there once was when you had to buy an actual physical copy of the music. Now, Alex, we are right smack in the middle of a pandemic. Now we can't have concerts. A concert is a thing of the past, at least for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And all of these things that are going on right when the music industry was trying to find its footing. My
Mhm.
question for you, Alex, because I was trying to set the stage from where we are now on a global scale, because I think that's what we should look at the industry here, although it's quite local, but we always have to think global, right? That's the stage, that's the environment that we have now. We can't do concerts, and everything is digital. It's easy to share. Before I ask you what is going on now in the coronavirus as far as the music industry is concerned, Alex, maybe you can tell me what was going on in the Cebu music scene just before Corona. Uh, on, let's just take us back to let's say the last few moments of 2019. What was going on? How were your bands? How was the music industry in Cebu? Go ahead, Alex. Tell us.
Yeah. You know what? Just because it's an overwhelming things that are happening. Like, but let's just take back a bit of what you were talking about, the history of like, coming from the vinyl to the cassette tapes and everything. you would like let's look at it at a point where yes, there was a shift in the music industry as far as the results of say having a good sales back end because there was physical aspect of it, but you also have to look at it in a way where actually right now when I look at it with the digital distribution thing that's happening globally, it actually looks good in a way because everyone now can have a say, not like before where it has to be, you have to be with a label, whether major, independent, or you either have a backup of a guy who could spend for your album, to make it available for everyone. But now, I mean, even if I just raise my phone and start making music here and then put it on SoundCloud, automatically everyone can hear me now, right? So I think it kind of opened doors to a lot of things. I mean, the bad thing about it is that it also opened to a lot of music that are crap. So basically, you have both end of the spectrum there, right? So I think for me, what's really good about like instances in Cebu, especially that there are like labels, like all the outfits that are here, is really to filter out what's quality. And what I notice now with radio as well is that they're very picky also. I mean, they've always been picky ever since, but now the quality has been raised, I guess, because like now different radio stations have been playing like local music side by side with a Taylor Swift or a like a Lainey. That doesn't happen before, so it is a good standing looking at that. But let's just go back a bit 3 years ago. When I got back from Cebu, coming from Manila, I've been in Manila for, I guess, almost the timeline of Urban Dub, and Dice and K9 when I was starting there. And when I got back in Cebu, so I, I, I was here to concentrate on more of the family side of things. I wasn't really into music anymore. Like I could like stop music for 2 years and just like concentrated on, I mean, you even saw me in that one dog show, right? Like I was really it was really more of me. But then 3 years ago, I have noticed there's this new thing that I found exciting for me was this whole SoundCloud generation where it was all like the music quality of production was just amazing, like, and this was the first time 3 years ago I heard one radio played a track from a guy named Carlisle, which is Light Me Up. And I know because of that, and I was already on, I was working on another radio station that time, and I was like, because I know the local scene, fairly know the local scene, but I was like, hey, why is this Carlisle not being played on my show? Like, who is this guy? So I started asking, actually, who was the guy who, Charles Osmeño was the one who sent me that link. He goes, yo, bro, have you heard of this Carlisle guy? I was like, no, like, then I started listening to it, and I was like blown away with the production. I was like, wait, he's from Cebu? Is this like a sample vocals? And then I found out that he actually did everything on his own, So 3 years ago, I didn't want to go back into music, but then because of when I found out about the SoundCloud community kind of music, then which I started discovering Carlisle, and I talked to him. Then I asked him about, are there any other people like you who do this stuff? And then he said, yeah, you should meet Jameson Tenorio from Consolacion. You got Jid Dorano. So he started mentioning these people that wasn't in my circle back in my days when I was doing rock music, right? So, and I was like, interesting. So I started a show called Beat This at that time, where we were, the content was still a bit small, but it was directed towards the producers and what I call the computer music, which is in shortcut, I call them compositions, So they're like, they do everything in their laptop. They do everything on, like on computers. They don't have a real, instrumentation. They just do like keyboards and just put it on the digital format. And then that really kind of started my journey to actually start looking for those kind of quality music. And then when I heard some of the other radio stations playing them, side by side with the bigger artists, I said, I think this is the formula to get us to the next level, you know? So, because it took a while, because me coming from an urban dub Dyson K9 background where we had national success, I was always looking for the next ones, you know, like, as it's you don't stop if you really like what you do, right? So I was looking for it. I couldn't find it for a while, and then I got back to Cebu, heard Carlisle, and that whole community just opened doors for me. That's the time that
So,
when I, yeah.
what was going on? What were the plans for 2020? What were the what was the outlook like? Was 2020 going to be a banner year for Cebu music? And what was going through your mind when you first stepped on 2020 before you knew that there was something sinister going on as far as
Yeah,
health conditions?
actually, so going back to, when I started Beat This, that's 3 years ago. While that was happening, there were instances that were sort of like things that I haven't experienced in the music industry when I was there. Like when I was in it for Urban Dub and Dyson Kane and Sonic Boom and what I've been doing. And then the first artist that was really kind of catapulted me to like knowing more of this sound was when I started working with Karencita. So the Cebuana, I don't know if like you're familiar. Of course, everyone knows Karencita, right? You even had
Yes,
that.
of course.
You
I
even
had
had
a
that.
chance to talk to her during my show. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. It was all over the internet. Yeah. So, but yeah. Anyways, so I worked with Karen, and the first time I heard Cebuana, I was like, yeah, this is it. It's like after Carla, listening to Carla, and then you get to know like these artists, Karen, and you have music that is for me not just only represents Cebu, but really represents the Philippines for a global appeal sound, right? So because she has I think Karencita is a case study of mine that I feel that she has everything locked in, like image, quality sound, the locality. What do you call this? She has this local flavor that the local market wants.
The
So
vocal.
yeah, putting in Bisaya there with an English, it was the mix of that, right? And of course, a lot of people will always say that it's also because of Vispop that even that came to be. I mean, that's part of the whole thing, right? But when you say case study of an image I feel of a global artist, like I think that would be something we should look at when we want to compete globally. So when I
Were we
was
on our way to compete globally? Were we on our way to thrust these artists that you mentioned into the national scene? What was going to happen in 2020 that was cut short because of this pandemic?
well, one thing's for sure is the because I got this job in Warner last year.
Okay.
I think I've been a year old, and because of the things that I've moved along with, like Karencita and Mid Nasty and all of that, Warner National saw it, and then they started asking me if I want to work with them on the side of the South, like Vismin, because they've been seeing a lot coming from here, coming from Cebu, coming from Davao, Dumaguete, and all that. So when I started working for them, when they put me as A&R and marketing for Visayas Mindanao, I kind of already had this vision of where I want the Visayas Mindanao to go, as far as not only national, but maybe compete also on Asia. We've done that before as well with Dub and some of the artists I have. I brought them in different Asian festival back in the days. But like the thing is now is that with this sound, it's very it's easy. It's you can consume it easily. Like the thing with rock before, kasi when we put it on radio, it's so hard to compete with the quality of what's out there globally, right? Because like unless you're as
So
good as
are you saying, Alex, that we were on our way to compete nationally, if not globally, the Cebu music?
yeah, I could say, it's there. It's just a matter of who you're going to be working with along the way when that happens. And part of the reason why I even looked at accepting the job at Warner was to really see if that's going to become a possibility. Because with Warner Music, if you didn't know, we are the big three majors globally. So the biggest major labels is Warner, Sony, and MCA, right? So when you say three major global companies, that means that we have 60 offices around the world, and it's really pushing music to the next level. You know, like we have international artists, Asian artists, domestic artists, like you name it, we have it. So the question lang now is like, how do we um, export naman, you know, our music out there, right? And the only thing that I see, like I've done it as an indie to try to export music, but it took forever to really get there. But with the major label connections, I think it's a bit closer, you know. Going.
Alex, I talked about Napster earlier because I think that's a very crucial timeline in the big picture of the music industry, right? Because just because of Napster, things started to get really, really different. In fact, the music industry was having a crisis of some sort. And it was, you know, there were artists that came out of the woodwork, came out of the internet, like John Mayer and Justin Bieber, who was a kid singing with his guitar in Canada. There were Colby Kylie. There were so many artists that were coming from the internet, that were discovered online. So the way in which you discover artists was already different back then. Plus, of course, now it's easier to procure, to get a copy of a song. So artists had to really have more concerts all over the world to reach out to their fans more. Alex, would you say that it's more difficult now for a music company, for musicians, not just for music companies, but for musicians, for artists to make a living out of their craft? Or is it more difficult now, or is it easier now compared to, let's just say, the pre-digital era?
Yeah, well, if you look at the 2020, of course, everyone is having a difficult time to actually make money now. But with that said, I think what's best now is to really put out content more, you know, so like, and everyone, like even the musicians are having it a hard time. They're having a hard time because they're now in a position that they have to become an influencer at the same time. You know, like, you know, as much as you just want to be a musician, you can't do that anymore. You like if you wanna enter the game, right? But of course, I'm not saying you can't be a musician. You can. But you cannot enter the industry game if you only become just a musician. You have to know everything: business, being an influencer. You know, you gotta have to put all the hats there to survive in this industry. You know,
And do you think we have what it takes? Because I think, you know, it is such a revelation for your personal life if you want to get into that whole thing, right? I mean, like if you look at the artists like Karencita, or let's just even go more international, let's say Taylor Swift, they really talk about their personal lives, right? And they really ask their fans to participate in the process of music making, right? Do you think we have what it takes? Because we're kind of a private people, right? Culturally, Filipinos, Cebuanos are very private. I mean, we can share parts of our lives, but not everything the way other other musicians would in other parts of the world.
Yeah, and you're actually right about that, Jiggy. I think culturally there is a limitation we could do with Cebuanos as an artist. It's not a question about talent and sound. We have an outstanding quality, you know, top-notch sound. Where we kind of like lack, I guess, is that it's an overwhelming setup when you get into the more national situations, or even just not even national only, but if you're online and you want to compete online, it's already overwhelming, you know, like, so it's really, you know, what happened with this pandemic going in, because I already had a really good plan on 2020, what I was going to do with the Visayas Mindanao setup, because like, just to give you an idea what I was supposed to do, well, actually I'm already doing it now, but the thing, it could have been, I guess, you could say the effect would have been faster if it weren't for the pandemic, right? But my idea was really to pull in, when I did my Vismin research, I came from a background where, you know, Cebu was on the radar of the Philippines music industry because of what we did back in the days with Urban Dub and Dice and K9. So that's already, you know, it's all in the history books, you know, like, you know, or in Wikipedia at least, right? So, but the thing is, how do you it doesn't stop there. It's how do you continue that? Like how do you, because it's not just me about me doing that sort of legacy to just make that, but not even just the opportunity of making money out of that, but really like how do you see that contribution in the next 5, 10, 20 years? And you know, really like that's really my goal, right? So
Yeah.
so the idea was when I got into the major label, I worked with Warner, I saw the difference of, say, looking at, you know, the South in a different way now, because before it used to be all about Cebu, you know, Cebu music, all about that. We've done that with Urban Dub and Dyson K9. You can only do so much about Cebu because it's already there's already a certain audience that doesn't want to change. You know, like they want to listen to this thing. They're very, our competition not even is Manila. The competition of music listening is really the foreign artists with us because we love to listen to foreign music, right? So even that is already a struggle, right? So when I look at it as holistically, I said the only way the Visayas, the only way we could go to the next level of making Cebu or even the South an industry is that it can't just be about Cebu anymore. You know, we did that like in the early 2000s. We did that in the time of local ground. But now it's like you have to look at the market as Visayas Mindanao. So what I was looking at is that the only way it's going to be big for us and it becomes, because right now we're only a scene. It's not an industry yet. There's no one really making so much money in the exchange of music in the Visayas Mindanao, right? So what I was looking at is that if I'm seeing a picture where Cebu knows the Davao scene, Davao knows the Iloilo scene, Iloilo knows the Cagayan scene. You know, it's like all of us would have to be well informed of what's happening in the Visayas Mindanao. And now you're looking at a bigger picture because it is a Visayas Mindanao audience. It's not anymore just Cebu. So in Cebu, it's already a struggle for us, but I'm looking at it now. It's better than before compared to the time early 2000. It was harder back then, you know. Now, like
When you say better, Alex, what do you mean?
like there are venues now who just who allows artists to play original. Back in the days, you can't do that. You know, I mean, back in the early 2000 or like even late 90s, I was in a band, and every time I go inside a venue, they always ask me for cover songs before I can actually play in a bar.
Alex, you know, music listening platforms like Spotify allows artists to have some sort of trickle down income, right? Or I don't know what you call that. They get a little bit of income from
Royalties.
Spotify royalties. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry, it took me a long time. I need another cup of coffee. So, Alex, is that a boon to local artists? Are you guys are the local artists taking advantage of music platforms like Spotify? Are they making some sort of a living from having their music played in Spotify and other platforms similar to that?
Well, if you ask me, yes, I've seen that in some of the artists here in Cebu who's taking advantage of, you know, like Spotify, YouTube, and all that. But it really depends on how you see success. Like for me, for example, like for some artists here, I of course I salute them for taking advantage of that and making a bit of money of that. But when you're in my position where I've already seen how it is nationally, I would want them to go more than that, right? So for me, competing in the music space, it's not for me. I'm really encouraging artists not to think about just Cebu, you know, because at the end of the day, if like for example, Urban Dub is a national artist, okay, we didn't go there like promoting it was Cebu music, right? But people ask, you know, like, where are you from? We're from Cebu. So automatically representation is there. So we don't really need to say that it's Cebu music, but by heart, everyone knows that Urban Dub comes from Cebu, or Dyson K9 comes from Cebu. Fast Pitch comes from Cebu, you know, like, so all the things, even Sheila and the Insects, like, you know, but we don't go out there.
So back to my question. Are local artists taking advantage of Spotify? Do you know anyone? Are your artists taking advantage of it? Do they get sort of royalty? Is that enough for them to make a living and feed their family, feed themselves, or is it just very minimum amounts that you can't really consider it a sort of
It's
income
not.
stream?
It's not yet there, as far as, well, I don't know, I could be wrong, but based on what I've seen in Cebu right now, it's not going as far as you doing it as part of a career. Like it's like you need to get another you need to get another job to make it work, you know what I mean? So
Alex, you were the guy who was responsible for thrusting bands like Urban Dub, Fast Pitch, and Days and K9 into the national consciousness, right? Into the national
yeah.
music scene.
Mhm.
Of course, that was a totally and completely different world. We don't live in that world anymore. So the playbook that you used to succeed nationally, you have got to throw that out of the window. So what do you think? Can you still learn? I'm sure you can throw the entire book out of the window, but you can still remember the lessons that you can still apply in the coronavirus. So what lessons have you learned from taking the careers of bands like Urban Dub into the national scene and still apply it in the coronavirus?
Well, for me, it's really about I always tell this to all the artists, it's about foundation. You cannot go further if you don't even have a foundation in the very beginning. So most of the kids now that I see, which is they're so used to instant success, so they want instant likes, they want things like, they come up with content just so that to get the clicks, right? So the thing is that although that is how it's practiced now, and some of it kind of works, I still want to work with artists that have a foundation. Like I would want to grow with them, and that's how I think why it's going to work, even if the playbook is new. But I think
Alex, explain to me what you mean by foundation. What do you mean by foundation? Because in the new world, you can't have concerts, right? The reason why artists would go to Manila is to perform, right? To watch them live, to watch Urban Dub perform live in a gig, in a smaller venue, in a bigger stadium. But those days are gone. So what do you mean by foundation?
Foundation is, it starts with the artist, what the vision is all about, right? The branding, or it doesn't even have to be a branding, but really what makes you be out there in the first place. So if it's like you can't like when I say foundation, it's your sort of your credibility to not change along the way if things are just like you're lost between, like, oh, here's a bigger budget for you, can you change your style of sound, you know what I mean? Like you have to have a foundation, you have to know who you
You
are.
have to commit to a
so
sound, right?
For example, if your sound is a death metal cha-cha, and you just want to do if you want to do death metal cha-cha and that's really your thing, make sure to be, you can't, like one day or one way or the other, someone would go, hey, can you, instead of death metal cha-cha, can you do like death metal country and I'll give you money? You can't just like go death metal country, right? Because you are a death metal cha-cha artist. So my thing is that the artist has to know really what they want first, and I think with the playbook we did with Dub and Dice K9, we even with Dub, it was really very focused on what they wanted, and every obstacle along the way, it kind of like, like we kind of solve things because of the foundation of the artist, So
I think what you're trying to say is a formula, right? A formula. Put that in a bottle, and if you already like the taste of that or the sound of that, that's you. This is Urban Dub in a bottle, right? We're not going to change for anyone for anything. And for how much? That's the foundation, right?
And then although I along the way when you grow, you need to also compromise, right? That's part of it. But your compromise has to be based on decisions of how your foundation was done, right? It's not just all over the place, right? I mean, I always I have this thing that I came up with, no, na parang, like sometimes it's there's I in music, right? So because it's like the artist, it's me, it's this is my creative. But there's also us in music, So it's about really like forming not only a foundation of yourself, but forming a foundation of how you're gonna attack. It's like an army, but like you make you put people in the right aspect of your team so that you can move it, whatever comes along the way, you can actually solve those things based on your foundation. And I'll give you an example right now with Route 83. They're very tight with what they do. They know what they want, you know? And it's easier to work with artists like that rather than an artist who doesn't, they have the sound, but they don't really know where they want to go, you know? So when I say foundation, it is very important for an artist to have that to survive in this industry, you know? It's really like, I think one of the best trait that you should have going in. And especially when in a pandemic time, like right now, I remember like I was talking to Route 83, they were on their way up. We were going to national level. Mix was going to coin them like artist of the month for March. And like then March came in, it's the pandemic, right? So when I was talking to Carlisle and Relden, they were like, wait, is this a sign that, you know, we're not gonna push through with what we planned? The EP was already out. We were on the promotional back end of it all, and then the pandemic hit, right? So then I told them that, you know, we just have to restructure again, see what, you know, and for some, usually for some, if something like this happens, everyone would want to quit, you know, but that's a thing, you know.
Alex, one of my biggest complaints about Cebu music is we have no distinct sound. I don't want to bring in this example, but I need to illustrate something. If you listen to K-pop, they have a distinct sound. It's really a combination of Korean culture and the West. It's almost like a mutated baby when it was exposed to radiation, right?
Yeah.
It has a mutated version of Western pop, and it's uniform all throughout. All of the artists sound the same. They have their little quirks, little signature sound, signature style, but you can tell that's K-pop. My biggest complaint, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is just a complaint based on what I hear on the radio, based on what I play. There's no distinct sound. If you close your eyes and listen to a local song, hey, this sounds good. This is probably international. I don't know. Until they start singing in Bisaya. So will it be just the dialect, the language, that will distinguish us from any other sound? Or should there be something else?
Okay. Okay, I have two things to say on those instances. Like with K-pop, if you look at it, you know, you might think that it's like original, their sound is, but it's not really original. You know, that sound kind of like, it took them a couple of years to get that particular, you know, like distinct sound, right? But you still, if you look back, you know, the Japanese were already doing that kind of sound, you know, and I think they just, so there's a lot of things you nitpick things, like you get the right formula one way or the other, right, to get there. But what's the thing about K-pop that I feel that is going further is it's not really just about the sound. It's really about the backing of it, the whole thing.
And the culture, right?
The culture, yeah. And well, one thing's for sure, it's like, it's still dialect with them, you know, like you can't really define now K-pop artists if they were just speaking in English, unless you kind of know a bit because of the type of the way they say the English, then you'll know it's Korean, right? So, but same as like this with Jamaicans, you know, when we play Jamaican music, you know it's Jamaican,
you know,
right?
man, you know. Man.
So it's like, there's partly it's really dialect, right? But at the end of the day, what I'm looking at right now with the sound for Cebu, it's not going to have that, because of the fact that the influences that we have are very westernized, you know. So like when you listen to we have a different sound appeal to even Manila listeners. So when you listen to Manila radio stations, it's so different from how it's done here, you know. Like even big companies who have different station in Manila and also here, the DJs have a different take on how they play their music here, because Cebu is just it's a critical market, you know. It's not it's so hard to please ba, and then the standards that we have is foreign music kasi, like, we don't even, majority of the listening habits that we have is not even Filipino music, it's international good, like, like makadungog ka.
So back to my question, Alex. Sound. What what is the Cebu music or the Visayas Mindanao sound? Is there such a thing?
Well, maybe Vispop is one, like
Like,
that's
what is that? Describe to us that, because I've asked several people this question and I can't seem to get a straight answer. What is the Cebu or the Visayas sound aside from Magbinasaya ang kanta, of course, naturally?
Well, what I've noticed though, like majority of artists that comes from Cebu, it is very melodic oriented. You know, it doesn't work for us here if the song is just, usually it's like there has to be melody in it. There has to be a strong hook.
Mhm.
Even if you listen to, like, say, a heavy band to the lightest band around, that, of course, there's no distinction that it has to be Cebu music, but the quality of taste that we have here. It's, again, we're very critical as an audience. Of stories like when Manila artist goes to Cebu, they practice 3 times, 4 times because they know, like, diba? I don't know if you've heard the story when Regine Velasquez do her show here. She always, like, hands-on, needs to know what's going to happen because she knows that it's Cebu market. So we're very known with that. So I don't think there is a sound,
A distinct sound.
a distinct sound, and I think it's okay, because at the end of the day, it's really about, music is not just for me a representation of our city, but it's really about a representation of um, of of something that's quality that can connect to people. Like,
So it's a representation of the individual,
yes, I
the
believe that.
artist.
Yeah, it's really like, it's not just about the sound, but it's the storytelling of that artist. So
Yeah,
so for
story is
example,
important.
why is Urban Dub successful at what they did is not just because of the sound, because anyone could have that sound, right? But it was because of the storytelling of, like, they come from Cebu, and then they went to Manila, and then they had a lot of listeners there, so and it gravitated to everyone.
You said a word earlier, uh, Alex, that caught my attention. You said backing when we were talking about the K-pop music scene. What did you mean when you say backing? Because from what I understood, the government of Korea actually supports their K-pop music scene. Explain to us when
Yeah.
you talk about backing, and how much backing does Cebu music or music in general have here in the Philippines?
Um, I was just talking to some of my friends in the industry, like nationally, and if you've heard, when the pandemic hit, to this whole thing, the music sector was the last one to actually take advantage of the, like the support of the government.
The ayuda.
Yeah. So even with that alone, the music sector is not really there yet because we're only like, all the suppliers had they job were gone, like everyone, the musicians, wala. But we're the last sector of that. We're not even, we even haven't made a dent to actually get more support from the government, right? So when I say backing, remember that, like, I don't know if you saw the Netflix documentary about that K-pop thing, right? So it's like, I think 3 to 5% of gross income goes to the K-pop entertainment community, like to the agencies. Gross income of Korea, that's
You mean
huge.
the country?
The country, yeah.
So the entire income of a nation goes to the music industry.
Yes. Of
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So
what
yeah,
that must be in billions, right?
that's why they can compete with Ariana Grande, they can compete with Kanye West because they have more money than, you know. So
Um, um, Alex, I've always said that the United States is ruling the world, not because of how rich or how powerful they are, or the kinds of weapons that they make, or the kinds of inventions that they sell to the world. It's really because of Hollywood and because of the music industry. Now, if you want to rule the world, make a music industry. And I think that's what the Koreans did, and not just with their music industry, but with their movie industry, their film industry as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They're ruling the world
yeah.
because I think they are original, because I think they have a distinct way of storytelling, of singing. They're very distinct. So, but I think our problem is we're a nation that's splattered. We're a nation that's divided by lots of water, 7,100 or so islands.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're so confused. We don't really know how each other sounds like, because each island has a different dialect, a different tone, a different sound.
Mhm.
Do you think that we can solve that archipelagic problem, and maybe somehow we can be as one? Bisik sa sound na lang, gubot kita in other ways, politically, our beliefs and all that stuff. Maybe we can have some sort of a one sound as a nation. Do you think that's possible, or that's just a pipe dream?
Well, to be honest, I've also tried to research on that ever since I've been here for almost 20 years. But I really think it's not going to work if there's no example. Okay? Like remember, the floodgates have opened for Cebu when Urban Dub became a national artist, or even when it started with Sheila and the Insects trying to go there. It kind of
Mhm.
opened the doors. Even if you look back at local ground, it kind of opened a lot of doors. But the always the problem that I see in Cebu is it's that small town mentality ba? Like it's like I dirirata para rami ato. Ano ba? More bitag it shouldn't be like I don't know. I could be wrong, but when I was talking to my timeline ako sa mga the ones before me, like so this was like around late 90s, and then early 2000s, and everyone was like, Manila will never look at us like this kasi provincial area ta. So I used to think that it was like that. But when I go out there and started promoting artists in Manila, and we went there, and it was not like that. In fact, if you look at it, Manila's not even competing with us. They're competing with other Asian countries. So sometimes kasi Cebu will compete with what's happening in Manila, and that's not even something that we should be thinking about. It's really, we should be one with everyone there on looking at it as a national thing. So
So it
when
looks like something that has to be handled and orchestrated from a national perspective, right? And I think the government can do it. The
yeah,
government
of course.
has the capacity, they have the network to do it. And we can even probably make money off of it. The government can probably take advantage if it becomes a global music scene, if it becomes a global film scene. I mean, what we churn out in our cameras and in our microphones, maybe the
Yeah.
government can actually perhaps make money off of it too.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Jigs, it's really about the numbers game. Like, for example, the government would look at it if there's numbers that can prove that it's there. The problem is that even in Cebu, you can see like the business of music, it's there, but even the media is not backing it up. I mean, I'm surprised to see some of the artists being played now on radio as regular, but it's just on the early stages of that. I remember there was a time when local ground, like every song of the artist, and the quality wasn't even that good that time, but it was on the radio. But
Mhm.
now that the quality's there, it seemed to be like it's always a battle between the placements. Like it's always a battle when like oh
But uh, you sound like you're relying on radio, but like I said, we live in the digital realm now.
yeah, but
There's a way for you to sell your craft, not just to Cebu, but to
yeah,
the entire world,
yeah,
right?
but
So doesn't anybody know how to navigate in that infinite opportunity that is
yeah.
the internet?
And here's where I go back with foundation again. Like it starts with your locality. You know, if you have a strong locality, then it will influence, it will rub off to each other.
Explain to us what do you mean by locality, bro?
Like for example, before, like I remember when Urban Dub was starting out, and I used to submit to like a lot of radio stations, and we were always it was always rejected. And It wasn't until they become successful and everyone wants to be on their, they're like, all of a
Bandwagon.
sudden, yeah. So I do get it. Like it's a business also for the media. Now, remember, some people would say right now, even right now, I do stuff for some of the artists here in Vismin. I still see the relevancy of the traditional media right now. Some of these digital guys, like all Spotify and all that, don't see the relevance of radio. Now, sometimes it's a love and hate relationship with radio and the media. It's like yeah, you want to be in there, but sometimes you don't want to be in there. It's like there's that thing. But on a business standpoint, if the media would support it like holistically, and when I say support, it's not just going to be just one radio station. It's going to be like every radio station. It's like when you look at Japan, when you listen to all their radio station, they're playing all Japanese stuff. Or you go to Brazil, you listen to Brazilian radio station, it's like majority is local. Or you go to Korean, that's the same thing. In Cebu, or not even in Cebu, in the Philippines in general, we're not there yet. Like it's always there's always priority with global artists compared to the Filipino artist. And it's not even like the sound now, because if you think we're struggling in the sound of Cebu, what is Cebu music? Now you look at me coming from a national standpoint, you look at the music of the Philippines, you don't even know what is the music of the Philippines, right? So
Alex,
yeah.
we're already struggling, as it were. Now that we have a pandemic, what's going on with the artists now? Are the artists getting hungry? Are the artists suffering even more now that we have a lockdown? They can't perform in venues, that you can't have a concert? Or are the artists more creative now because they have more time to themselves to create, to write new songs, to think about what their formula is that you mentioned earlier, their foundation is? What is going on now with the artists here in not just in Cebu, but in the entire Visayas and Mindanao?
Yeah, right now,
getting hungry?
It's actually
Starving?
What happened to the pandemic is actually both good or bad. But when I look at the side of like the good of it, is that artists are now becoming smarter because of it. Like before it used to be just like, oh, I just want to play music and that's it. Now it's like, oh, how am I gonna get the audience to listen to me now that there's no concert life? Like they get smarter now. So, and then siguro the good thing of it is that now you're filtering, say, the 100,000 artists who do it, and then not really think about it as a career. You're gonna pin it down to just a few artists who's gonna survive, right? So my take on it is that all the artists, even the ones I sign now for Warner in Visayas Mindanao, is really, I usually look at them, if they see a 2 to 3 year plan of just putting in content, then I'm gonna work with that artist, because even in the pandemic, they're palaban ba? Like they're not, because like it's really hard, man. In the music industry, even in a normal situation, you can't be just relax. You have to be competitive. That's the difference between a scene and an industry. In Cebu, yeah.
Before, I mentioned to you artists like John Mayer and Justin Bieber, right?
Uh-huh.
I know before, music hunters would go to music bars, like they would go to clubs, they would go to artisan cafes and see who's performing and look for diamonds in the rough. Now, music hunters like you are looking online, right? Are you looking at YouTube?
Yeah.
And have you discovered, or has anybody discovered an artist, local artist, or maybe Manila national artist that was discovered online?
There's a
performing?
lot. There's a lot, and especially
Like,
in
for
Manila.
example, which particular artist that you can talk about?
Well, I remember Clara Benin. When I discovered her, it was through YouTube. Then I managed Clara Benin for almost 3 years. I was one of the executive producer of the first album that she had. Another example is December Avenue. When I discovered them, they were like, it wasn't even Spotify that time, it was MySpace,
Mm-hmm.
So the digital discoveries have been there for a while now. The thing lang right now is that there's just too much noise now, because if you look at the global releases, it's like 30,000 a day is uploaded on Spotify. 30,000 songs a day, man, average. So imagine the noise. That's why it's still important to work with um, radio stations. It's always important to work with media, because in Spotify like, knowing that there's that much like content out there. I mean, how are you gonna stick out, right? Like, because the talent is not the question. There's a lot of talent, but it's really about how, like, imagine this. um Carlisle, I heard on radio. I didn't hear him on Spotify. Now, I'm not. I haven't listened to radio for a long time. Like, I grew up on radio, but it's a guy who heard, like, someone from radio who heard him told me about him. So there is still the relevancy of radio, because you cannot put all the music on radio. That's why you have to pick the good ones, right? In Spotify, you can't just pick the
So
good.
much junk, right?
Yeah, so there's just so much there, right? So I used to listen to New Music Fridays back in the days, and it was a bit more curated well. But now it's like there's just a lot there that's like, why is this even here? But so what Spotify did was they kind of like created other playlists. So now I direct myself to certain playlists now, because at least I don't have to hear the other things that is not curated.
You know what I notice now in the international scene? I don't know if there's a local equivalent. Artists are making more music now. They're writing stuff. In fact, from what I understood, Taylor Swift's Folklore was done on quarantine. In fact, she collaborated with an artist named Bon Iver. His band, the name is Bon Iver. And he has the distinction of making an entire album in isolation for 3-4 months in an island somewhere. And that song is actually an excellent song. It's called Exile. Do we have artists now making music in quarantine with all that me time, with all that alone time, that are so inspiring that they're probably coming up with the best songs of their lives? Is there something that's going on right now similar to that in the Philippine music scene?
I don't want to like be biased, but like the track of Ani Ako by Route 83 is something that was done on a quarantine setup, like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was, for me, when I heard it, was really a strong single, because I know the backstory of that song.
What's the backstory? Tell us.
Well, Ani Ako, if you listen to it, there's two meanings to it, and the story behind it is that when Relden, we were about to go to Manila, it didn't work, so it was a sort of a depressing time to like look at it. It's like you're supposed to get there already and you're not. And then after that, like I think siguro a couple of days or something, I can't remember now, but her brother passed away. So
wow, from COVID-19?
No, I no he of something else, but basically because of COVID, she couldn't even go to the hospital to see her brother. So when that thing happened, I didn't even, as an A&R of Route 83, I didn't even wanted to force them to release music, because they of course the respect of Relden's grievance on her brother, but then like that along the way, they sent me a song, and then I heard it and I said, wow, like that the story is there. You can feel it. Like, listen to the song again, and now that you know the story, you'll understand why it's a very it, and when you listen to it, that it's going to gravitate to an audience, because there is a storytelling in it, and that it's very authentic, like what it's all about. So if you look at it as a song, it's just like one of those pop sounding songs. But now if you look at the authenticity of where it's coming from, then you'll love it more, I guess, because it's relatable to a lot of people. And I think for me, Route 83 has been doing a lot of music, and they're very fast at what they do. I think Ani Ako is one of their masterpieces for me, like one of their best songs that they've ever written. And it was their 15th single already. You know, that was their, imagine they're already on their 15th single now. They've been around for only 2 years. So artists like this is really what should be the standards now of Cebu. You know, like for me, like it should be like, you should be doing music like fully, if you want to be part of the game, you know, like of the industry, right? Like if you want to be relevant to the industry, you got to be like as consistent, as relevant as you can. You know, you don't have to force yourself if you can't be that if you can't be that artist, but at least if you want to be in the industry, you gotta at least play the role, or understand where your position is if you want to be on there, right?
Before the pandemic, Alex, was there like an organized effort to sort of put together, put the artists' heads together and come up with something nationally? Like, where was the government trying to sort of get involved in deeper ways as far as nurturing musicians, artists?
Actually, the thing that happened is just recently, because of the pandemic. Actually, I was invited to that committee for the national. It's like a national group of different musicians, different music people like Ryan Cayabyab, Mr. Ricky Lacad. You know, like I was also invited to see what I think about those situations. But they actually are making a group right now to actually pass to Congress of actually looking at the music sector, you know. So it just started this year. You know, I know it was been discussed a couple of years back, but really it kind of hit na now because of the pandemic, that the music sector is actually it's a good economic what do you call this, there's good economic outcome of it ba. So there you can there's actually money coming in the music industry. You know, the movies kasi I think there is already like a group na, but some music kasi I don't think it's happening until just recently. Na I heard some talks about, you know, doing like opening ourselves to Congress and all that. I think it just happened this year lang. I think that's what actually is the good thing that happened to this whole pandemic.
So what were they asking Congress to do?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's really to look at the creative business of it. You know, like how music can really advance a country. You know, from everything, like from even just like, you know, from even just collection agencies like PhilSCAP to like having music on radio, music on establishments and all that, and to look at the concert business. We have been given a lot of jobs because of that. Like foreigners coming in, it gives a lot of jobs to like Filipino suppliers, caterers, security. You know,
And now it's gone.
Now it's gone. So the thing is now is that it's really trying to position that one day in the next 2 to 3 years, we have to position everything so that when that comes back, at least everyone is going to be like, the government will really look at it na ba, na parang, you know, like it's not just like, kibaw naka sa music, bisag akong parents ba, like I came from the construction business, like, tukar-tukar raman na, you know, murag duwa ra ba, you know, but I'm telling you, like if you
get a real job.
Yeah, it's a, you know, like that's why I always say now, you know, like if you want music to be your real job, you have to dedicate yourself there, you know, and there is a business, there is, you know, like
Alex, I've seen concerts nga murag they're divided by small stages. I've seen concerts online, like in the Coronaverse. Nga murag sila divided by stages with 10 people per stage. I saw a concert it was I think Smash Mouth did a no holds barred concert, right? So the playbook for what music will be like, live performing will be like, is still being written. We don't know what the fuck is going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with the concert scene, if at all it'll be there. I know a lot of people are singing online with an audience. I just saw Hamilton online, that the stage musical, that stage play. So it's going to be very unique on what the live performances will look like in the coronavirus. What do you think? Will it look like? What are we doing as far as your area is concerned, besides in Mindanao, is concerned, to try to capture that concert feel, but not actually bringing a crowd in one place? Are we doing anything about that?
Well, right now it's really about positioning. That's it. You know, like ikaw, Jiggy, what do you think? How, if you were to say, you think this is gonna be back to normal in the next 5 years,
I
or
don't. I really don't know. To be honest with you, I really don't know, because I thought when I first knew about this that this was just gonna happen 1 month, 2 months, and this will be gone, And we're still here, man. We're already
yeah,
almost
but
end of 2020, and we're still here.
yeah, let's just say
I don't know what's
the
happening.
vaccines are like that done and everything. Like, let's say.
But see, this is the thing about a coronavirus. It is just COVID-19 is just one of the
Yeah.
million coronaviruses.
Yes,
So what
yes.
if there's another one?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
if there's another one? Then we have to start from scratch. What if it's not a coronavirus? What if it's another virus? Then the vaccine will take longer. So we don't really, there's so much uncertainty. And at least now we know how fragile life is, how fragile our way of life is. And it could change just like that. So that'll be in our heads all the time, right? So I
Yeah.
don't think we will ever be the same again
Yeah,
in
I'm
the
sure.
corona.
I'm definitely with you on that, Chiggy. Like, it's like every day when I wake up in the morning, work, I know there's a lot of opportunities that I see on my end, but at the same time, it's like, what's the future of this? you know.
Yeah.
But like, to give a good naman, a good vibe, encouragement to everyone. My thing lang about it is that as musicians, like for me, I used to be a musician back in the days. Not, most people think I was just like this business guy in the music, but I used to be in a punk rock band back in the days, right? So
Go.
but the thing is, like for me, an artist it really starts with, okay, stop, like maybe it can distract you with what's happening, right? But if you are the creative person who does your music on your own, I know for a fact that artists will blank everything to create their own thing, right? So it's not, sometimes, like, that's the reason why folklore works, because she boxed herself in, like, and then just like not think about what's happening outside, right? And creativity is inspiration, and sometimes because of the distractions out there, it's still going to hurt you on how you create. But look at what happened to, I guess, Route 83, when they still create music even in the hardest times of their lives. So it's really about, for me, like, it's not even about the concerts, about the business outside of that, but it really starts with you and how you create your music. And sometimes when I talk to artists now, I even tell them, stop thinking about the numbers. That's my job. Think about how you're gonna make your music good. So when, like, right
Doesn't
now.
music, doesn't great works of art come from great tragedies? Doesn't great works of art come from great heartbreaks?
Yeah.
What is greater than this? Than a
Pandemic.
pandemic, right? We should be
Yeah.
churning hit after hit, right?
To be honest, like I've seen that in a lot of artists. Like, I remember when Urban Dub's Embrace album came out, that was because Gabby came out from a heartbreak setup, right? So, and then songs are really done, like, because it was really what was happening to him. Same thing right now. I have a few artists right now who are like, like, one is, I have this artist called All Over the Place from Dumaguete, and they just released this track called Someone Else, and it's very maoy, very hugot, but it's so done well that, I could say it can compete with whatever is on radio right now. So um and they just instantly, like, we never thought it was going to be a huge song. We just said, I just told them, this is a really nice song. But then when it came out, like it got to the charts of Hugot, they have Hugot playlist in ano eh. And then now it's like, it's just a month and they already had 120,000 listens, you know? So Ani Ako is another example. Like it's at 120,000 listens also in a month, you know? So you know that the people who are listening to it can really relate to the situation of the songs. So I guess my advice is that like I think the formula right now for in the pandemic setup is that like now it's so easier for you. I think I had this discussion with Paulo Valenciano, like we were like talking about like the audience now is just right there because you know everyone is at the house. So when you write music, you can actually take just the emotions of the feelings of what you have with all these people that universally understand what's happening right now, right? Write something about that. I mean, of course, don't force it if it's not something I know, but imagine how, like, even if you're gonna sing about face mask, you know, everyone's gonna try to look at it or listen to it because it's about face mask, you know?
Yeah, there's a song about face mask here. Is there?
I don't know if there's a song for face mask, but I'm just saying, like, the audience is, like, there's a focused audience now. Everyone's online. Everyone's at home. Work at home. There's like habits that is being done now that I don't think I think musically it's not even talked about yet. So that's another angle that you should look at. Like, yeah, same as like, you know, yeah, like what else? Like things like washing your hands almost every day, like taking a bath twice a day. You know, it's like these are things that if you make songs like that, everyone can relate. The audience is there, you know. So recently I have a project with Warner that I'm doing right now where I'm trying to look at like certain songs and turn it into lullabies, you know, because I feel that, you know, lullabies right now are very something that is relatable for everyone who's at the house and you're a parent, you know, and it's a soothing, relaxing music, right? So that's another, yeah, those are the things.
Alex, once, let's just say we live in a world that there's already a vaccine, right?
Yeah.
There are already rumors about a vaccine happening late this year or early next year, right? Let's just assume that things go to whatever normal is when the vaccine comes and everybody gets protected from the virus. What does it look like for the music industry? What does a comeback look like? Are you going to just pick up where you left off pre-corona? Or is your strategy going to be totally and completely different now?
There is going to be a different approach to it because everyone passed through what, you know, the whole thing, right? So, but if there was one thing I do believe that's going to happen is that before, when we used to, here's another thing that I noticed in Cebu, like when you have gigs in Cebu, it's like, because you've already seen that artist a couple of times, like, and because they're from there, you just don't really like, say, I'll just watch them next time because they're gonna be there, you know, they're gonna play there again next month, you know? So I have a feeling that will change once this whole thing, and the valuation of artists playing live is going to be different now because you have experienced not watching anyone right now, you know? So imagine now the valuation of like the value of an artist now playing
what
live.
do you mean by valuation? Is that the level of talent fee? Is that what you mean? What do you mean
No,
valuation?
valuation is like ikaw ba, for example, why would you buy, like, diba, why would you pay Starbucks this coffee na pwede man ka mag 3-in-1, diba? So why? Because of the value. It's even expensive to buy Starbucks, but why are you doing that? Is because you see a value in that product, right? So that's what I mean.
Well,
about
first of all, I want to talk about that for a little bit because that's marketing, and I think it's crucial that the bands understand this. Starbucks is not in the business of coffee, right? They're in the business of experience. So the coffee is just secondary. The entire Starbucks experience is their business. So I think that's what a band should be, you know? It's not just, you know, listening to that song. It's the holistic experience of the band, the story. Take, for example, bands like Laney, for example. You know, they involve their fans in music creation process. Some artists even write parts of their songs before it becomes a complete song. So I
Yeah.
think the kind of exposure, that's the kind of involvement that artists should have with their fans or their new fans, so that they can make new fans. So for example, I am writing a song about heartbreak, because I went through a heartbreak, for example. So you post that and then maybe let people participate, right, in the process of
Yeah.
songwriting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, that's true. Like, in fact, that's always the mentorship I tell some of the artists that I work with. And fan engagement is very, very important. Whether it's 5 of them to 5,000 of them, you know. So the idea really is, get them engaging from the very beginning. And sometimes there's a line kasi na parang, there's a line between it na parang, like, ay gamay pa man ang akong listener, to like, they'll take it seriously when there's like more listeners. But for me, I always tell some of the artists now from the beginning, if you have 2 listeners, you better make sure that 2 will never go away for the longest time, and then it'll be
I
added.
remember one of my favorite talk show hosts said, his name is David Letterman. I'm sure you're familiar with David
Yeah,
Letterman.
of course.
He once said, I am at my best when nobody's watching, because you're just doing it for the simple pleasure of doing it well, right? For nailing whatever it is that you're trying to do. In this case, hosting and doing comedy. So I think that should be the mentality for artists too, right? You're not doing it for the rest of the world. You're doing it for you. And you want to nail it, whatever it is that you want to do. You want to have something that you can be proud of, whether people watch it or not. Then they start watching. Then they start listening. Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. The pride, I think I see a lot of that trait from Cebuano artists, because the pride is there, right? But sometimes the only problem is the pride is there, but the work ethic is not. Like, so sometimes those two things have to be on the same level. But not saying that all the artists in Cebu are like that. Like, it's but you really know, you can cherry pick the ones who actually have both of that. Like you're right. You have to compete with yourself, trying to excel on what like, right? But
please yourself first, because I think when you please yourself, you please a certain segment of your audience, right? A certain segment of society.
I mean, like, if I look back at what I do, just like, I'm not a musician like I used to be, but just being behind the scenes. If I was just already satisfied with what I have back in the days, I would never reach that far. I guess, like, of course, some people would want to decide to be just in Cebu, and that's fine. I don't mind that. But, like, there's also a different outcome if you have been successful nationally, right? So there are things that I have learned going outside of Cebu to actually know, like, how the industry works. If I didn't go outside Cebu, I wouldn't know how Manila would work and how to apply it, say, for a Cebuano artist. I remember when I got back here 5 years ago and I started talking to artists, they're always overwhelmed with what I'm saying. But it's because I come from a national background now. I know, like, I've experienced it. So now when I go out there with Route 83, who have experienced Cebu for a while now as a market, and they see now the national level, they now understand where I'm going for. It's like,
I know that, in fact, it's even still the model for other artists all over the world. If you want to succeed, you've got to go on a national tour. You've got to go on a world tour, right? Yeah. And some artists can't hack that. That's why they never flourish. They never have any more than a successful first album, because the work that is needed to become a national or even a global hit is enormous. You've got to go and travel all over the country if you want to be a national success, and you've got to travel all over the world if you want to be a global success. But now that the concert segment, the concert part of the equation is already removed, how do you make up for our inability to perform live, Alex? What are artists doing now that they can't perform live in a venue?
You have pre-recorded events, pre-recorded concerts. You have you make content, and the cool thing is, it's not only just waiting for. I'm surprised, because there are bands now in Manila that that I didn't even think that they would go there, like to become influencers and talk about other things aside being musicians.
Like
So
who's this?
like a good example is Ben and Ben. So I watched
Okay.
their recent Ben and Ben TV, and they were talking about other things aside from music, and it kind of like I'm not even like I wouldn't think I would be interested in the things that they do, but there's things that, oh, you know, this guy pala plays this game, you know, or this guy pala watches this, you know, that it's interesting to watch. And with that said, I think you know, like some of the artists should go that direction. I mean, of course, you can only go that direction if you have an audience, right? But it starts with, you make the music. If there's a listener, then you just add more to it, you know, like you just have to put more content, I guess, you know. But before you even put out content on a, say, influencer side of things, you better make sure you have at least a lot of catalog on your list, meaning you have at least like a good example nga is, again, is Route 83, who has 15 songs already. Then now they
Make
can
some
start,
good shit, right?
yeah, no, no, like come up with some like
Exactly. Make music. Just make
yeah, yeah,
some music.
and then plus add on, like, say like something like a story, like what are you doing today, right? You know, like something like that, like, or talk about, like, if you know how to cook as a musician, might as well just talk about that, right? You know, so
Alex, we have a lot of musicians out there watching this interview from Cebu, from the rest of the country, if not the entire world, who are kind of scared about the uncertainty of the future. You know, they can't perform live anymore because of the pandemic, because of the restrictions. They don't know what to do. They're scared. What is your message to all the artists watching this interview right now, Alex?
well, first off, it's okay to be scared, you know, because, like, you know, that's you know, that makes you human, you know, or vulnerable to the situation, right? But my take on it is that take that vulnerability, and that's, you know,
That fear.
that fear, and try to see if you can withstand that, like, and if you can go out of that box, then you can do a lot of things in the industry, you know. If you're a musician, I'm talking to the musicians who's really taking this seriously. I'm, of course, the ones who does it for a hobby, that's good. It'll always be best of your situation because it's a hobby. But if you're a musician who wants to make it into the industry and make this a career, um, what I really want to tell you is that it, it, this is the right time to connect. I mean, when I say connect, relevancy of connecting to the people who are all over the, you know, the Philippines, the world. They're all in their houses, so, you know, like, there's no reason for you not to get to connect to everyone right now, because everyone is online now. Now, when I say connect, it doesn't have to be you're connecting to a million people. If you can even just connect to a certain few people who evaluates you, that you're a relevant artist for them, and that even is a success already. Like, if you have 10 fans, and those 10 fans will fight for you, that's already success, you know. But if you want to get more, then you just have to figure out that 10 fans, what they like about you, and then look for those other 10, you know. That's it.
You know what, Alex? There's nothing says that everything is back to normal when bands start singing again on stage, and people start watching them again, and
Yeah,
you know, applauding them and cheering them and singing their songs live, and in a big ass stadium with thousands of in attendance watching a concert. Nothing says everything is back to where they once used to be if you watch a concert. And I certainly hope that we're gonna get back to where we were pre-coronavirus. If not, I'm sure we have better and newer ways of approaching the coronavirus. But I'm sure the Cebu musician will be out there battling it out and
yeah.
making great music, and hopefully not just for themselves, but for the entire city, the entire country, and with the support of, you know, with fans, with the
Yeah,
support of the government, perhaps we can even make waves all over the world.
yeah. That's really where the dream is. My dream right now is, even if I don't get there, but if I'm going to be part of one of the reasons, because like the floodgates of the Cebu and Vismin I was there. I saw it, like when we did Urban Dub and all that. I saw
Yeah.
the things that happened that opened the gates for us on a
So,
national scale, right? But
so I hope that's going to happen for you and for many bands, for many artists here from the Visayas and Mindanao. And
yeah,
hopefully we'll have another Urban Dub, another Dyson K9, another Carancina somewhere out there.
yeah.
Uh,
Actually, my I wanted to say this, but my dream now is really not just that, because that's already done. You know, like and I can find more artists that can be really nationally be accepted, right? But my goal now is the next dream. I mean, of course, it's a pipe dream, but really to find an artist that can stand out globally, you know, because like it's going to be hard. Everyone's like trying to figure that out now, and especially now with the pandemic. But you know, I'm thinking if 3 years from now, that's the time that everything goes back. I want to be that person who positions himself to be part of how we can make Filipino music global. You know, like that's
be
really my
careful what you wish for, Alex. You might just get it. Ladies and gentlemen, Alexander Lim, the man behind the national success of bands like Urban Dub, Fast Pitch, and of course Dyson K9. Of course, he's now the artist and repertoire manager of Warner Music. Alex, I hope your artists are well. I hope your artists are creating stuff, and I hope that your dream of a global artist from the Philippines will come true very soon. Thank you so much. It's been
yes.
a blast talking to you, man. It's
Thank
unbelievable.
you very
We
much.
could have all day, right?
I know.
Thank you so much, man. You take care, okay?
Hey, wait, Jigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just stopped the recording. I want to ask you something,
Yeah,
hypothetical.
go ahead, man. Let's do that off cam. Thank you so much. And you have been watching Live, my search for the best ways to live. I'm your host. My name is Jiggy Jr. You take care now, okay?